You can join the Iron Butt Association by riding a documented 1,000 miles or approximately 1,600 kilometers in less than 24 hours on a motorcycle. But which motorcycle would you take on such a trip? I found myself thinking about this question the other day, and as a guy who has long-term tested a ton of different bikes and put big miles on all of them, I feel I'm qualified to answer that question. Because the answer involves more than just a comfy saddle. So stay tuned and we'll go over what makes a motorcycle long-haul capable and what kinds of bikes are best for long-distance travel. And as always, if you're enjoying the content, please consider subscribing, liking the video, and sharing it with friends. First of all, you can tour long distance on any motorcycle. You don't need a specific touring bike. I knew a rider who was just getting into motorcycling, bought a Honda Rebel 300, and went camping on it. Having said that, I think we can all agree that a Rebel 1100T is going to be more comfortable than a Rebel 300. So when it comes to maximizing long-distance comfort, there are only three choices: baggers or dressers, sport touring motorcycles, and adventure motorcycles. Now, just to clarify, sport touring motorcycles encompass three types of bikes. There are what I call sport bike tours, bikes like the Kawasaki Ninja 1000 SX or H2 SX, which I've reviewed on this channel. These are basically sport bikes with taller bars and bags. They will not factor into this comparison because despite the fact that they are probably the fastest down a twisty road, they are less comfortable than bigger bikes. The second are your traditional larger sport touring bikes like the BMW R1250 RT or Yamaha FJR1300, which tend to weigh over 600 pounds and provide excellent weather protection, electric windshields, and decent backroad handling. The third is the newer breed of adventure-type motorcycles with 17-inch wheels and road-biased tires, which launched after sport touring riders realized that these bikes are super comfortable and fun on pavement. In many cases, these are simply adventure bikes with smaller wheels and less suspension travel, and include bikes like the newly introduced Pan America ST, the Kawasaki Versys 1000, the Yamaha Tracer 9, and the Honda NT 1100. For the purposes of this video, I'll bunch these bikes in with adventure bikes because the seating positions and weather protection are more similar to them than to traditional sport tours like the FJR 1300. Finally, and obviously, if your touring involves a lot of gravel and dirt, an ADV bike with somewhat off-road capable tires will be your best choice. Whatever this bike lacks in weather protection, it will more than make up for in off-road confidence. To me, the least important thing to focus on in a conversation about comfort is a motorcycle's saddle. Saddle comfort is a very personal thing and different riders will disagree on different saddles, but one thing we can all agree on is that motorcycle saddles are easy to switch out. You can ride higher and back for extra legroom, lower and more forward if you're shorter, and everything in between. There's a whole area of research here and you should definitely do your own if you want to swap out your stock seat. Much more important than the saddle is your seating position or riding triangle. This is the relationship between the bars, seat, and foot pegs or floorboards. Cruisers and baggers look comfortable because the seating positions mimic a lounger, but that is not necessarily a good thing. Yes, the position is superficially comfortable, but when you're sitting with your feet out in front of you for hours at a time, all your weight is on your butt. And when your weight is on your butt all the time, it almost doesn't matter how comfortable a saddle is. The stock Goldwing saddle is really nice, but on a 4-hour 2-up ride, both my wife Brooke and I needed to take some breaks to keep our butts from screaming. This is where sport touring motorcycles and ADV bikes have an advantage because their pegs are located more under the seat. This position gives the rider a chance to lift up and relocate on the saddle or stand over a bumpy section like crossing railroad tracks. It doesn't look as comfortable as a bagger with huge floorboards, but looks can be deceiving. Yes, there is less legroom, but in my opinion, having spent a lot of time on motorcycles, unless you're really tall, this position has its advantages. And keep in mind that taller ADV bikes will generally have more room between the saddle and the pegs, which makes them more suited for taller riders. The other big factor that will greatly affect long-distance comfort is weather protection. Call me a wimp all you want, but if I'm riding all day, I want to be in a bubble of calm air, especially around my helmet. Even with a high-quality helmet, having the air blasting at your head for hours at a time fatigues you more than anything else. After a ride like that, I get off the bike feeling like my head is swimming. Having relief from the air blast is also a boredom issue. Yes, riding a motorcycle is way more engaging than driving a car, but there may be times when you have to cover long stretches of flat, straight highway, and when I'm forced to do that, I like to download some music or podcasts and listen on my helmet comm system on the way to keep awake and alert. When a bike allows a significant amount of air blast on my helmet, the audio from the headset gets drowned out at high speeds. That's why I'm always praising bikes with electrically adjustable windshields in my videos, as they give you the stylish look and cooling air blast with the windshield down, but also provide maximum coverage at speed. Now, in the motorcycling world, the absolute best weather protection is provided by what we used to call full dressers. These are baggers with more comfortable seats, trunks, and taller windshields. Some of them also have lowers to keep the elements off your legs. So you take a bagger like the Street Glide and add the things I just mentioned to make it into the Street Glide Ultra, or a Kawasaki Vaquero into the Voyager. You can literally ride a full dresser through a storm and stay largely dry if you're going fast enough. You don't need weather protection like that on a motorcycle, but when you're starting a 10-hour ride in the pouring rain, it is pretty nice to stay mostly dry. Baggers give you decent weather protection, but many have lower windshields that are not adjustable and lack the lowers which shield your legs from the elements. Sport touring bikes generally provide excellent coverage, not as good as full dressers, but close. They tend to have electrically adjustable windshields and fairings which give you some lower body coverage. Adventure motorcycles and ADV-type sport touring bikes will lag in the weather protection department, as they tend to have the smallest fairings and provide little in the way of lower body coverage. Windshield coverage will vary here from almost none to pretty tall manually adjustable units which provide a surprisingly stable bubble of still air around your head. The Africa Twin Adventure Sport stands out here. Check out my review of that bike in the top right corner. It goes without saying that in colder climates like in Canada where I live, heated grips and even seats, as well as outlets for plugging in heated vests and such, are necessary. And while you can put these accessories on any motorcycle, some manufacturers are really good at either including them as standard or as factory options which look integrated and work better than aftermarket units. BMW and Triumph both offer lots of standard equipment on their higher-end bikes. Also, good weather protection can lengthen your riding season by over a month in the spring and fall, as well as allow you to dress lighter and more comfortably at any given temperature. And cruise control is also a big plus, which is why it is included on most higher-end touring bikes. Not being able to occasionally take my right hand off the throttle does eventually result in a painful kink in my neck on the right side and gets old fast. One element of comfort that a lot of people often ignore is the speed a motorcycle is capable of. If you're trying to get your Iron Butt badge, you could spend 16 plus hours riding 60 miles per hour or 100 kilometers per hour, or you could find some deserted roads out in the boonies where you can see a cop 3 miles away and just ride 100 miles per hour for 10 hours. Yes, that's illegal most places, but on the Autobahn or some poker straight flat road in the middle of North America, you can cover a lot of ground on some of these powerhouse fast bikes, especially sport tourers like the FJR1300. Don't ask me how I know. Another aspect of comfort that often gets overlooked is maintenance. Having to lube your chain on a long tour is less comfortable than not having to do a damn thing to your shaft drive on that same tour. This is one of the reasons why big BMWs are so prized by touring riders. Finally, one of the least comfortable things you could do on a motorcycle tour is wait for a tow truck. Again, don't ask me how I know. This is why, ever since that or those incidents, I like Japanese bikes. Enough said. You may also want to opt for a brand with a large dealer network to maximize the chances that there will be a nearby shop able to service your ride in the event of a breakdown. Finally, I have one more nugget of information that riders who haven't gone long might not know. Not all miles are equally fatiguing. Get on a really long but interesting twisty road with great views, something challenging like the Blue Ridge Parkway in the Smoky Mountains or the Cabot Trail around Cape Breton, and the miles just fly by. Having to navigate twists and turns keeps your mind engaged and your butt shifting on the seat, which always keeps me fresher in the saddle than if I'm mindlessly droning the highway. This is where a lighter and more nimble bike, despite lacking some of the creature comforts, may actually keep you going longer. This kind of motorcycle will have you looking for more challenging and fun roads, which is the main reason why we ride in the first place. Now, if you go to the Iron Butt website, you will see the names of the riders who have completed the events as well as the motorcycles they rode. And predictably, you will see a ton of BMWs, Goldwings, and big Harleys. And you will also spot a lot of Yamaha FJR1300s. This seems to be the quintessential Iron Butt bike. Monster motor, decently roomy seating position, good weather protection, Japanese reliability, and a good sized dealer network. Check out my review of this bike in the top right corner. So baggers are best for highway or 2-up touring, sport tourers for almost the same highway comfort but improved fun factor in the twisties, and ADV sport tours for off-road and serious twisty fun. And while the FJR 1300 would be near the top of my list if I were attempting an Iron Butt ride, I'm not a guy who has the funds or the garage space to add a dedicated long-distance tourer to the collection. If I had to choose a big, fast touring bike for my needs though, I would buy the Triumph Tiger 1200 Rally for its power, comfort, shaft drive, and ability to do some off-roading. But what would be your choice? Feel free to comment below on your ultimate long-range bike. Ride safe, check out some of these other videos which may be of interest to you, and may the spokes be with you.